Sathya Sai Speaks, Volume 12, Chapter 45. The Banana and the Peel, Part 1 of 2. Tulsidas has said in his Ram Charitramanas that he composed the great epic on the story of Raghunath for Swant Sukhaya, that is to say, for his own sukha, or happiness or joy. He engaged himself in that self-imposed task not to please any patron or even Rama, but to please himself. He derived great ananda, divine bliss, while writing it, and even when it was finished. That was the urge which moved him. In fact, all that a man does is ultimately traceable to this urge, the urge to earn self-satisfaction. A man builds a house, writes a book, enters a job, executes a plan, all because he gets joy therefrom. The cuckoo coos sweetly and derives joy therefrom, far more than those who happen to listen. The rose blooms on the plant because of an inner urge, not an outer prompting. The father fondles his baby and receives thereby more joy than he ever gives. The various disciplines undergone by sadhakas, spiritual aspirants, monks, ascetics, and those on the march along the path of self-knowledge are all adopted and adhered to, because they give joy to oneself and fulfill an inner need. Sacrifice is at the very basis of bliss. This day is celebrated by you as the day when Emperor Bali was both humiliated and blessed by God in the form of Vamana. Emperor of the three worlds, Bali called himself, for he had bala, power, more than anyone else. He was saturated with egotism. God came to him while he was busy with the yajna, an offering, in the form and guise of a Brahmin boy, and asked for a gift of just 3 foot measures of land. Bali told him that he could ask for infinity more riches and lands. But the boy insisted on that tiny gift only. The preceptor of Bali warned him about the identity and the bona fides of the strange mendicant. He mentioned that he may be God himself. This made Bali happier, for if it was true, he was so mighty that even God came to his door as a mendicant. Such was the measure of his conceit. But when Vamana drew himself up to cosmic proportions and measured the entire earth with 1 foot, and the vast expanse of space with another foot, Bali was humbled. He offered his own head as the 3rd foot measure. Bali let himself be trod down into the nether world. This day marks the day when the incarnation of Vamana happened, in order to teach this lesson that pride meets with doom. Once the ego was thus suppressed, Bali became cleansed and God blessed him with various boons. He assured him that he would ever be his guardian. He permitted him every year on Onam Day to come up into the world and see for himself his empire and receive therefrom the homage of his people. So this is the festival of Vamana's advent as well as Bali's transformation. This day also extols the merit of gifts renunciation, charity, however little to anyone, for all are images of God. Tyaga, renunciation or sacrifice, is at the very basis of bliss, of grace, of immortality. Na medaya, na prajaya danena, tyage naike amritatva manasu. Say the Vedas, not by intellect, not by progeny, not by riches, but by renunciation alone can the bliss of immortality be attained. Onam is the festival which instills this message into those who observe it with an eye on its inner significance. Every obstacle is a step that leads to Ananda. Kerala has contributed a great deal to the preservation of Vedic culture and Sanskrit learning. Keralites have a name for faith and dedication. Witness the age-old privilege the Nambudiris of Kerala enjoy, priesthood of the great Vaishnavite shrine, thousands of miles away from their land, namely Badrinath among the Himalayas. Of course, wherever faith and dedication to God are evident, forces that try to ridicule it and diminish its strength are also to be found. Where there is an astika, believer in God, there will always be nastika, atheists as well. But disbelief in God or in some supreme will can be only a pose, assumed for the sake of personal aggrandizement. It cannot stand the light of reason or of experience. Even so-called atheists have love in their hearts, honor truth while dealing with society, and live on the basis of some eternal basic principles of justice. So they are believers in Sat Chit Ananda, being, awareness, bliss supreme. You have the duty to stand witness in your lives to the courage, the joy, the strength, the generosity, the humility that true spirituality and faith can impart to man while faced with disappointment, distress, defeat, defamation, and other calamities against which the atheist has no such shield. Gold gains in value when it is melted in the crucible. When a piece of diamond is cut into a many-faceted gem, it is thereby rendered more brilliant and more costly. The dull stone is not sought after by all. Prahlada, the grandfather of Emperor Bali, was subjected to torture by his irate father, but that only added to his luster. Bali himself shone all the brighter for the punishment he received from the compassionate Lord. This is the lesson you have to take away today. Every obstacle is a step that leads you to the Ananda that can never be destroyed or taken away. It is natural of man to raise himself up. There is another duty that you owe to yourselves, which you have to recognize today. The world is the playground of Nara, human, and Narayana, God. Nara transforming himself into Narayana, and Narayana transforming himself into Nara, and playing their roles in unison. You know full well that Narayana has come in human form for re-establishing Dharma, morality in the world, for feeding the roots of faith in God, and for interpreting God to man. You have to be assured that it is natural of man to raise himself up through spiritual discipline, moral elevation, expansion of love, and other means to become Narayana. But man is unaware of this high destiny. He misinterprets his skills and strengths, and is so absent-minded that he slides down the scale into a monster or a monkey. Of course, there are many who struggle with these downward dragging tendencies and still endeavor to elevate themselves. Unfortunately, they often grope in the dark, being poorly guided. End of part 1 of 2, Prashanti Nilayam, August 30th, 1974.